Have you ever discovered that the people who claim to love you most were secretly plotting to turn you into their unpaid servant for the holidays? What I'm about to tell you will make you question everything about family obligations. It started when I overheard a conversation that changed everything my mother and siblings planning to stick me with all the dishes and cleanup at Christmas dinner. They thought I wouldn't find out. They thought wrong. This is the story of how I turned their perfect Christmas feast into a lesson they'll never forget. My name is Rachel Monroe, and at 34 years old, I've become something I never wanted to be: my family's invisible backbone. I live in Cleveland, Ohio, where the winters are brutal and the family obligations even more so. By day, I'm a senior event coordinator at Summit Works events, orchestrating corporate conferences that bring together hundreds of professionals. I'm good at what I do. Damn good, actually. Which is probably why my family assumes I can handle everything at home, too. It wasn't always like this. Before Dad passed away 5 years ago, there was some semblance of balance in our family dynamics. But his death created a vacuum, and somehow, without anyone asking, I was expected to fill it. Mom, Caroline, became the grieving widow who couldn't possibly be expected to handle the logistics of family gatherings anymore. My older sister Melanie had her 2 kids' perfect little excuses wrapped in sticky fingers and constant demands. My younger brother Ethan had 3 of his own, and apparently, that mathematical superiority meant he was exempt from any real responsibilities. And then there was me, single, childless Rachel, the one with the easy life and all the time in the world. Every Thanksgiving, I arrived at Mom's house at 6 in the morning to start the turkey. Every Christmas, I was there the night before, wrapping last-minute gifts that others had forgotten to buy, hanging decorations that had been sitting in boxes since I'd taken them down the previous year. Easter meant dyeing eggs with 5 hyperactive children while their parents enjoyed mimosas on the back porch. 4th of July. That was me, arranging the entire neighborhood barbecue because Rachel's so good at organizing things. The thing is, I never minded helping. Family is family, right? But somewhere along the way, helping became expected, and expected became taken for granted. I became the ghost in the machine, keeping everything running smoothly while remaining essentially invisible. My apartment in Ohio City was my sanctuary, a converted loft with exposed brick walls and windows that stretched from floor to ceiling. It was nothing like Mom's suburban colonial with its perfectly manicured lawn and memories lurking in every corner. Here, I had my life, my real life. The one where I negotiated 6-figure contracts, where clients flew in from Tokyo and London specifically to work with me, where my opinion actually mattered. This year had been particularly good to me professionally. I'd landed the McKinnon Industries Annual Summit, a 3-day event that would bring in more revenue than our company had seen in a single quarter. My boss, Janet, had pulled me aside after the contract signing and said, "Rachel, you're going places. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." If only she knew that in my family's eyes, the only place I was going was to the kitchen to wash dishes. The irony wasn't lost on me that I could coordinate a dinner for 500 executives but was still seen as the help at family gatherings. I'd tried to explain my job to them once, describing the complexity of managing multiple vendors, the delicate negotiations with venue owners, the precise timing required to pull off a flawless event. Melanie had laughed and said, "So, basically, you plan parties. That's why you're so good at doing Christmas." No, Melanie. I don't plan parties. I orchestrate experiences that close million-dollar deals. But trying to explain that to someone who thinks your professional accomplishment is equivalent to organizing a potluck is like speaking different languages. This year was supposed to be different. For the first time in years, I had someone to look forward to sharing with my family. Daniel Hayes had entered my life 8 months ago, a freelance photographer hired to document the Morrison Tech Conference I'd organized. He was 38, with salt and pepper hair that made him look distinguished rather than old, and eyes that actually saw me not just what I could do for him. We'd started with coffee between sessions. Him showing me the candid shots he'd captured of attendees networking, me explaining the psychology behind why I'd arranged the room a certain way. Coffee became dinner. Dinner became weekends exploring Cleveland's art scene. And before I knew it, I was in something real, something that made me feel like more than just a function in someone else's life. I'd been nervous but excited to introduce Daniel to my family this Christmas. Maybe having a partner would finally shift their perception of me from available Rachel to Rachel who has her own life. I should have known better. It was December 15th when everything changed. I'd driven to Mom's house early on a Saturday, planning to drop off some decorations I'd found at an estate sale, vintage glass ornaments that would look perfect on her tree. I had my key, of course. I was expected to have a key, to come and go as needed, to handle things. The house was warm and smelled like coffee and cinnamon rolls, Mom's Saturday morning tradition. I could hear voices from the kitchen as I set the box of ornaments on the hallway table. I was about to call out my arrival when I heard my name. "Rachel won't mind," Mom was saying. She never has before. But the dishes from a dinner this size, that was Melanie's voice, with that particular tone she used when pretending to be concerned while actually being relieved. "That's at least 2 hours of cleanup." "She's efficient," Ethan chimed in, and I could practically hear him shrugging. "Besides, what else does she have to do? It's not like she has kids to get home to." I froze in the hallway, my hand still on the box of ornaments, my heart suddenly pounding in my ears. "I'm just saying we should plan it better this year," Mom continued. "If we serve dinner at 2, everyone can eat and enjoy themselves. Then around 4, we can all move to the living room while Rachel handles the kitchen. That way, the kids can play with their presents and the adults can actually relax with some wine." "God, yes," Melanie laughed. "Last year, I barely got to sit down. But if Rachel's handling cleanup, I can actually enjoy myself for once." "She's bringing that photographer, though," Ethan mentioned, and for a moment, my heart lifted. Maybe they'd realize, so he can help her or watch TV with us. Either way, someone needs to handle the dishes, and it makes sense for it to be Rachel. She doesn't have family obligations like we do. The words hit me like a physical blow. I don't have family obligations. I wanted to laugh or scream. My entire life had become one giant family obligation. "She's single. What else is she going to do with her time?" Mom added, and that's when I heard it, the dismissiveness, the assumption, the complete erasure of me as a person with my own life, my own value beyond what I could provide for them. "Plus, she's good at organizing. She'll have that kitchen spotless in no time," Melanie said. "It's kind of her thing. My thing, like I was the appliance. Press Rachel's button and watch her clean. Insert dirty dishes. Receive spotless kitchen." I stood there for 5 more minutes, listening as they planned out the entire Christmas schedule around my anticipated servitude. How I'd arrive early to help Mom cook. How I'd watch the kids during gift opening so the parents could take photos. How I'd handle the cleanup so everyone else could enjoy the new Christmas movie on Netflix. Not once did anyone suggest asking me if I minded. Not once did anyone mention thanking me. I was simply factored into their equations like a given constant. I left the ornaments on the table and slipped out as quietly as I'd come in. The drive home was a blur of suppressed rage and dawning realization. As I sat in traffic on I-90, memories flooded back with a clarity that made me grip the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. Last Thanksgiving surfaced first. I'd arrived at 7 in the morning to start cooking, working alongside Mom until noon when everyone else showed up. Just as we were about to sit down to eat, Melanie's youngest had a meltdown. "Rachel, could you take him to the playroom?" Melanie had asked, not really asking at all. I'd spent the entire meal eating lukewarm turkey off a TV tray while entertaining a cranky toddler, listening to laughter drifting from the dining room. When I finally made it back, everyone was dispersing for football and naps, leaving me with a table full of dirty dishes. Then there was Easter 2 years ago. Ethan and his wife had arrived an hour late, kids in tow, chocolate already smeared on their dress clothes. "Rachel's here," Ethan had announced, like I was the cavalry. Within minutes, I had a baby on my hip and was juggling egg dye with my free hand while my sister-in-law disappeared to help Mom with something that turned out to be drinking wine on the porch. The pattern was so clear now, like looking at one of those magic eye pictures that suddenly snaps into focus. Every family gathering followed the same script. I arrived early, stayed late, and existed in the spaces between other people's enjoyment. Mom's 70th birthday party, I'd spent 3 weeks planning it, coordinating with the restaurant, organizing the photo slideshow, arranging for her old college friends to surprise her. The night of the party, I'd been so busy making sure everything ran smoothly that I hadn't even been in the family photo. I found out later when Mom posted it on Facebook with the caption, "All my babies together." All of them except the one behind the camera, making sure the moment happened at all. But it wasn't just the big events. It was the accumulation of small expectations that had slowly crushed my sense of self-worth within this family. The calls at 10:30 at night because Mom couldn't figure out her cable remote. The texts from Melanie asking me to pick up her kids from school because you work flexible hours, right? The assumption from Ethan that I'd handled Dad's estate paperwork because I was good with details. I was good with details, good at organizing, good at managing, good at everything except, apparently, being seen as a whole person deserving of the same consideration they gave each other. The most insidious part was how they'd weaponized my competence against me. Because I could handle things. I should handle things. Because I was capable. I was expected to carry the load. My professional skills, which commanded respect and significant compensation in the real world, became reasons for unpaid labor in my family's ecosystem. I thought about Daniel, how he'd asked me just last week what my family was like. They're complicated, I'd said, not knowing how to explain that I loved people who didn't really see me. How do you tell someone that your family treats you like staff? They don't have to pay. The Christmas before Dad died kept replaying in my mind. He'd pulled me aside while I was elbow deep in soapy water, everyone else laughing over board games in the next room. "You don't always have to be the one doing this," he'd said quietly. I'd brushed him off, told him I didn't mind. But he'd given me this look sad and knowing, like he could see a future I couldn't yet imagine. Now I wondered if he'd known what would happen when he was gone, if he'd seen how the family would reorganize itself around my labor, how his absence would become my permanent obligation. I remembered Melanie's wedding 5 years ago, right before Dad got sick. I'd been her unpaid wedding planner, coordinator, and day of manager. While she'd gotten her hair and makeup done, sipping champagne with her bridesmaids, I'd been dealing with the florist who'd brought the wrong centerpieces, the DJ who couldn't find the venue, and the caterer who'd somehow lost half the appetizers. I'd solved every crisis, wearing a dress I'd thrown on in a bathroom stall 5 minutes before the ceremony. In her wedding speech, Melanie had thanked everyone: her husband, our parents, her bridesmaids, even her hairdresser. Everyone except the sister who'd made sure she had a wedding at all. Back in my apartment, I poured myself a generous glass of wine and called Sophie Grant, my best friend since college and the only person who'd consistently called out my family's behavior. Sophie ran a successful marketing firm and understood what it meant to be diminished by people who should celebrate you. "They're planning to make me wash all the dishes on Christmas?" I said without preamble when she answered. I overheard them. They actually scheduled their relaxation time around me being in the kitchen. "Finally," Sophie said, and I could hear her closing a door, giving me her full attention. "Finally you see it." "What do you mean? Finally?" "Rachel, honey, I've watched this for years. They don't see you as family. They see you as staff who happens to share their DNA." The words stung because they were true. But they're my family. "So family doesn't get a free pass to treat you like garbage. You know what would happen if you didn't show up? They'd have to handle it themselves." "Exactly. And maybe then they'd realize that dishes don't magically wash themselves, decorations don't appear by Christmas fairy, and someone has been breaking their back to give them these perfect holidays." I stared at my wine glass, an idea forming like a photograph developing in solution. Daniel would appreciate that metaphor. What if I didn't just not show up? What if I taught them a lesson? Sophie was quiet for a moment. I'm listening. I've been the backbone of every family gathering for 5 years. They don't think I contribute anything meaningful. I'm just the single sister who handles the grunt work. But what if I showed them exactly what my absence means? Go on. I stood up, pacing my apartment as the plan crystallized. Every successful event I've organized has taught me that people only appreciate what they lose. My clients don't value my crisis management until there's an actual crisis. So maybe it's time my family experienced a crisis. You're going to sabotage Christmas? No, I said, feeling a smile spread across my face for the first time that day. I'm going to give them exactly what they planned at Christmas without me handling everything. But I'm going to do it in a way that makes them realize just how much I've been doing. Over the next 2 hours, Sophie and I refined the plan. It couldn't be petty or destructive that would only make me the villain. Instead, it had to be surgical, precise. I needed them to experience the full weight of my absence while knowing I'd heard their conversation. You need an alibi, Sophie said, something that makes it impossible for them to guilt you back. Daniel mentioned a Christmas getaway to the Keys, I said. Some photographer's retreat he goes to every year. I'd turned him down because of family obligations. Perfect. Book it tonight. But there's more, I continued, the event planner in me taking over. I need to remove everything I've contributed over the years, every system I've put in place, every tradition I've maintained. They need to feel the vacuum. I walked to my hall closet and opened it, revealing stacks of boxes labeled in my neat handwriting. Christmas decorations, Mom's house. Grandma's china, holiday linens, cookie cutters, vintage. Christmas recipe box. Oh my God, Rachel, is that all yours? Years of collecting, organizing, maintaining. Mom thinks these things just live at her house, but I've been storing them, cleaning them, rotating them in and out. The Christmas table runner, I bought it. The advent calendar the kids love, I've been filling it every year. The special hot chocolate mix everyone raves about. That's my recipe, which I make from scratch every November. Take it all back. I will. But I'm also going to give them one more thing, a perfect Christmas dinner they don't have to cook. Sophie laughed. You're going to cater their dinner. The most expensive, elaborate catered dinner Cleveland has to offer. Every dish they could want, delivered hot and ready at 2 p.m. All they'll have to do is eat it and clean up after. And the cleaning up is the whole point. Exactly. They want me to wash dishes. I'll make sure they have plenty to wash. Good china requires hand washing, after all. I pulled out my laptop and started making lists, my professional instincts kicking in. This would be an event to remember, just not the way they expected. You know they'll be furious, Sophie warned. Let them be. I've been furious for years. I just didn't know it until today. The difference is, my fury is going to change things. The next week was a masterclass in strategic withdrawal, like a general planning a retreat. I mapped out every detail with the precision I brought to my biggest corporate events. First, I called Daniel. Remember that Christmas retreat you mentioned? I said when he answered. The one in the Keys. Of course, but you said you had family obligations. Plans have changed. Can you still get us in? I heard the smile in his voice. Already making the calls. This is going to be incredible. Rachel, just you, me, and absolutely no obligations. While Daniel handled our escape plan, I began Operation Reclamation. Every evening after work, I drove to Mom's house when I knew she'd be at her book club or bridge game. Using my key, that symbol of eternal availability, I quietly retrieved what was mine. The vintage cookie cutters that had been Grandma's, but that I'd rescued from a garage sale box after Mom deemed them too much work to clean. The hand-embroidered table runner I'd found at an antique shop in Chagrin Falls, spending $200 I couldn't really afford because I knew it would make the dining room perfect. The crystal punch bowl I'd bought with my first bonus check, telling everyone it was a family heirloom because somehow that made it more acceptable than admitting I cared enough to invest my own money in their celebrations. Each item I removed revealed the scaffolding I'd built around their holidays, the specialty serving platters that made the turkey presentation photo-worthy, the matching napkin rings that elevated a simple dinner into an event, the Christmas playlist I'd curated over years, perfectly timed to last through dinner without repetition or jarring transitions. I even took back the laminated recipe cards I'd made my system for timing multiple dishes, so everything arrived at the table hot and ready simultaneously. Without those cards, Mom would be flying blind, trying to remember which dish went in when, at what temperature, for how long. The pièce de résistance was the catering order. I chose Chez François, Cleveland's most prestigious French restaurant, known for their elaborate holiday meals. The menu was impressive roasted goose with cherry reduction, beef Wellington, truffle mac and cheese, honey-glazed carrots, Brussels sprouts with pancetta, and their famous chocolate bûche de Noël. "This will serve 12 people," the catering manager asked, reviewing my order. "8 adults and 5 children," I confirmed. "And I need your finest disposable serving ware, the kind that looks like real china but definitely needs to be hand-washed." She raised an eyebrow but didn't comment on the contradiction. "That will be our premium collection. It's quite expensive." "Perfect." I handed over my credit card, the cost equivalent to what I'd spent over the past 5 years making their holidays magical. "I need it delivered at exactly 2 in the afternoon on Christmas Day, not 1:59, not 2:01. Exactly 2. "We can certainly arrange that. Will someone be there to receive it?" "They'll be there. Include this note with the delivery." I handed her an envelope, sealed and labeled "Open after dinner." Inside, I'd written, "Merry Christmas, since you've already planned for me to handle the cleanup. I wanted to make sure you had something worth cleaning up. Enjoy your relaxation, you've earned it. After all, I'm single with no real obligations. So what else would I be doing with my time? P.S. Hand wash only. These plates are as delicate as the assumptions you've made about my life. Rachel." Meanwhile, my phone buzzed constantly with family messages. The group chat was filling up with their usual December demands, disguised as questions. Melanie: "Rachel, can you pick up the kids' gifts from Santa? I'm swamped." Ethan: "Hey sis, you're doing your famous sweet potatoes, right?" Mom: "Don't forget to come early to help with the turkey. You know I can't manage that huge bird alone." I responded to each with carefully crafted vagueness. "I'll see what I can do. Let me check my schedule." "We'll work something out." They didn't notice the change because they'd never really listened to my responses before. Agreement had always been assumed. I made one last trip to Mom's house on December 22nd, this time during the day when she was home. I needed to plant the final seeds. "Oh, Rachel," she said, surprised to see me in the middle of a weekday. "Aren't you working lunch break?" I lied. "Just wanted to check if you need anything for Christmas." "Well, since you're here, the attic has all those decoration boxes." "I'm sure Ethan can help with those. He's got those strong teenage boys now." She looked confused. "But you always—" "I know," I said, smiling. "But I've got a lot going on this year. The promotion, Daniel, you know." I watched her process this deviation from script, saw the flicker of panic before she dismissed it. "Well, just make sure you're here by 8 on Christmas morning." "The turkey needs—" "I'll do my best," I said, already heading for the door. "Got to get back to work. Big presentation tomorrow." There was no presentation. I was spending the day packing for Florida and having a spa treatment my gift to myself for 5 years of unpaid labor. December 23rd arrived with a flurry of increasingly frantic messages. The family group chat had become a digital manifestation of their growing panic, though they didn't quite realize it yet. Mom, at 8:45 in the morning. "Rachel, I can't find the good china. Did you move it?" Melanie at 10:15. "Has anyone seen the Christmas cookie cutters I promised the kids we'd make cookies today?" Ethan at noon. "Rachel, where's that recipe for the sweet potato casserole? Mom says you have it." I watched the messages accumulate while sitting in the airport lounge with Daniel. Our flight to Fort Lauderdale boarding in an hour. My phone was on silent, but I could see the notifications piling up like snow in a Cleveland winter. "You sure about this?" Daniel asked, watching me scroll through the messages without responding. "I've never been more sure of anything," I said. then did something I'd never done before I left the group chat. The little notification popped up. Rachel has left the conversation. Within seconds, my phone started ringing. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then Melanie called. Voicemail. Ethan texted privately. What's going on? Mom's freaking out. By 2 in the afternoon, the messages had evolved from confused to concerned to demanding. Mom's voicemail. Rachel, this is ridiculous. Christmas is tomorrow. Whatever little mood you're in, you need to get over it. We have a family tradition to maintain. Melanie's text. Seriously, you're going to ghost us the day before Christmas real mature. Rachel. But it was Ethan's message that almost broke my resolve. Did we do something wrong? Yes, I wanted to scream. Yes, you did something wrong. You erased me. You turned me into a function instead of a family member. You planned my servitude like I was hired help. Daniel squeezed my hand as we boarded the plane. You're doing the right thing, he said. Sometimes the only way to teach people your value is to remove it entirely. At 3:30 in the afternoon, as our plane lifted off from Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, I sent one final message. Not to the group chat, I'd already left that behind. I sent it individually to Mom, Melanie, and Ethan. I heard your conversation on December 15th about having me handle all the cleanup while everyone else relaxes. It's clear you've already made your Christmas plans, and they don't really include me as family, just as staff. I've made other arrangements. A full dinner will be delivered tomorrow at 2. Merry Christmas. Then I turned off my phone. The flight to Florida was the most peaceful 3 hours I'd experienced in years. No obligations, no expectations, no one needing me to fix, manage, or handle anything. Daniel and I talked about photography, about art, about the reef diving we'd do tomorrow. We talked about everything except family and Christmas and the explosion that was undoubtedly happening in Cleveland. When we landed in Fort Lauderdale at 7 that evening, the warm air felt like freedom. December in Florida was what Christmas could be: light, warm, free of the weight of obligation and tradition. Turn your phone on, Daniel suggested as we waited for our luggage. Just to see. I powered it on and watched as it vibrated continuously for a full minute. 43 missed calls, 97 text messages, 12 voicemails. I deleted them all without reading or listening to a single one. Harsh, Daniel observed. No, I corrected. Necessary. If I read them now, I'll feel guilty. And guilt has been my operating system for too long. We picked up our rental car, a convertible, because why not, and drove to the resort in Key Largo as the sun set over the water. The retreat was everything Daniel had promised: small, intimate, populated by other refugees from family obligations and commercial Christmas chaos. First time escaping? The desk clerk asked, apparently reading something in my face. First time, I admitted. It gets easier, she said with a knowing smile. The first year is the hardest. After that, you realize the world doesn't end just because you choose yourself. Our room overlooked the ocean, with a balcony where you could hear the waves at night. It was about as far from a Cleveland suburban kitchen full of dirty dishes as I could get. At 9 that night, I turned my phone on one more time. The messages had evolved from anger to bargaining. Mom, please, at least tell us what catering service you used so we can confirm. Melanie, the kids are asking where Aunt Rachel is. What am I supposed to tell them? Ethan, this is really unfair to Mom. Unfair. The word almost made me laugh. 5 years of unpaid labor, and my absence was what qualified as unfair. I typed one response to Ethan, the only one who'd asked if they'd done something wrong. Chez Francois will deliver at 2 tomorrow. Everything's paid for. The kids' gifts from me are in Mom's hall closet, wrapped and labeled. After tomorrow. Maybe you'll understand that my time has value. My presence is a choice, and my help is a gift, not an obligation. Then I blocked all their numbers. It was December 23rd, 11:45 at night, and for the first time in 5 years, I wasn't worried about tomorrow's turkey, or whether the pies were done, or if I'd forgotten someone's dietary restriction. Christmas morning in Key Largo was nothing like Christmas morning in Cleveland. Instead of waking at 6 to prep vegetables and stuff a 20-pound turkey, I woke naturally at 9 to sunlight streaming through sheer curtains and the sound of waves. Daniel was already on the balcony with coffee and fresh croissants from the resort's bakery. "Merry Christmas, Rachel," he said, kissing me as I joined him. "How does it feel to be free?" "Like I'm getting away with something," I admitted. Every cell in my body is screaming that I should be in Mom's kitchen right now, basting something. "That's programming, not obligation. It'll fade." I wanted to believe him, but even here, 3 states away, I could feel the phantom pull of duty. Right now, Mom would be staring at a raw turkey, realizing she couldn't remember the temperature or cooking time. Melanie would be discovering that keeping 5 kids entertained without my pre-planned activities was harder than she'd imagined. Ethan would be learning that presents don't magically appear under the tree wrapped and labeled. "I need to see," I said suddenly. "I need to know what's happening." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You blocked them all." "I have a fake Instagram account. For work research, they don't know about it." I pulled up Instagram and navigated to Melanie's profile. She posted everything in real time, a habit that usually annoyed me but now served my purposes. Her story from an hour ago showed chaos wrapping paper everywhere, kids in various states of undress, and a kitchen counter covered in unprepared ingredients. The caption, "Christmas morning madness. Anyone know how long to cook a turkey?" The next story, posted 30 minutes later, was more telling. It was a photo of Mom's usually pristine dining room, but the table was bare except for a sad poinsettia centerpiece. No table runner, no china place settings, no carefully folded napkin arrangements. "Where's all your beautiful stuff?" "Mom," Melanie had written, apparently forgetting that Mom's beautiful stuff had actually been mine. Ethan's wife had posted too. "Kids are asking where their special hot chocolate is. Apparently there's a Christmas tradition we're missing." Cha, Christmas fail. I felt a savage satisfaction seeing that hashtag. Yes, there was a tradition they were missing. Me, the invisible foundation of their perfect holidays. At exactly 2 in the afternoon, I knew because I was watching the clock Melanie went live on Instagram. I couldn't have planned it better if I'd tried. "Oh my God, you guys," she said to her phone, her face flushed and stressed. "So Christmas dinner just arrived and it's from this fancy French place? But there's so much food and Mom's crying and—" She turned the camera to show the delivery. Box after box of gourmet food. Everything beautifully packaged but requiring careful plating and serving. In the background, I could hear chaos. "Kids crying," Mom's voice high and stressed. "But where are the serving dishes? We can't put this on regular plates." "The thing is," Melanie continued, turning the camera back to herself, "my sister usually does all this stuff, but she's not here. And we're kind of realizing that maybe we didn't appreciate— we're figuring it out. It's fine. Everything's fine." But everything was clearly not fine. The next shot showed Ethan trying to carve what looked like a goose with a butter knife because no one could find the carving set because it was mine. Currently sitting in my apartment closet, his teenage sons were on their phones, completely checked out, while his younger daughter was having a meltdown about something. Then came the pièce de résistance. Melanie posted a photo of the kitchen after dinner, every surface covered in dishes. The fancy disposable plates that looked deceptively delicate, food congealing on platters, the granite countertops usually pristine under my care, splattered with various sauces. "Anyone know how to clean this kind of plate?" she captioned. It says hand wash only, but it's like paper, but fancy paper help. 3 hours. That's how long it took them to eat. According to the timestamps on Melanie's increasingly frantic posts, it then took them 4 hours to clean up, and even then, the final photo she posted at 9:43 that night showed a kitchen that still looked like a disaster zone. "Feel better?" Daniel asked, watching over my shoulder. "You know what I do," I said, and meant it. For 5 years, I made it look effortless. They had no idea how much work went into creating their perfect holidays. Now they know. I scrolled through the comments on Melanie's posts. Friends and acquaintances offering sympathy and advice, but one comment stood out. "Where's your sister? She usually makes everything look so perfect." Melanie had responded, "She couldn't make it this year. We're managing, couldn't make it." Like I'd had a conflict, not made a choice. Like I was sick or traveling for work, not deliberately extracting myself from their dysfunction. Even now, even in the middle of their chaos, they couldn't admit the truth that they'd driven me away with their assumptions and entitlement. But then I saw something that made me pause. Ethan had posted a single photo, not of the chaos or the food, but of an empty chair at the table. No caption, just the image. And somehow, that hit harder than all of Melanie's frantic documentation. "That's guilt," Daniel said gently. "You're allowed to let them feel it." As the sun set on Christmas Day in the Keys, Daniel and I sat on the beach with a bottle of champagne we'd been saving. The resort had organized a barefoot dinner on the sand for all the Christmas refugees, as we'd started calling ourselves. No elaborate place settings, no formal serving dishes, no mountains of cleanup, just good food, easy laughter, and the sound of waves. "You going to unblock them?" Daniel asked as we watched the sky turn pink and orange. "Eventually," I said, "but not today, maybe not even this week. They need to sit with this feeling for a while." My phone, now freed from family obligations, had become a tool of joy instead of stress. Sophie had sent a photo of herself raising a glass in my honor. My colleague Janet had texted asking if I wanted to lead the New Year's Eve gala, planning a paying job that would showcase my skills to clients who actually valued them. At 10 that night, I opened Instagram one more time. Melanie had posted a final photo, the family attempting to recreate their traditional Christmas picture. But it was all wrong. The lighting was harsh because I wasn't there to adjust it. The composition was off because I wasn't arranging everyone by height. And there, on the edge of the frame, was the kitchen, still a disaster zone in the background. But it was the caption that told me everything I needed to know. Not our best Christmas. Missing someone important who we didn't appreciate enough. "Rachel, if you see this, Mom found your note with the catering. We need to talk." The note. I'd almost forgotten about it. They'd finally opened it after dinner, after the cleanup struggle, after experiencing exactly what I'd experienced for years, except they'd only done it once. I pulled up my text messages and unblocked just Mom's number. One message would be enough. "I've been the invisible backbone of this family for 5 years. You planned your holiday around my labor like I was hired help. Not a daughter and sister. The dishes don't wash themselves. The decorations don't magically appear. The traditions don't maintain themselves. Someone does all of that work. Someone you never thanked, never asked, never saw as anything more than single Rachel with nothing better to do. I love you all, but I'm done being your unpaid staff. If you want me in your lives, it'll be as a guest, not a servant. I'll be ready to talk in the new year. Until then, enjoy discovering exactly how much work goes into the magic you took for granted. Rachel." I blocked her number again before she could respond. The new year was a week away. That felt like enough time for lessons to sink in. "How do you feel?" Daniel asked, pulling me close as we walked back to our room. "Like I just gave myself the best Christmas present ever," I said. The gift of being seen, even if I had to disappear to make it happen. 3 days later, on December 28th, I unblocked everyone briefly to check messages. The tone had shifted dramatically. "Mom, we had no idea how much you did." "The house is still recovering. Please come home so we can apologize properly." Melanie, "Kids keep asking why Christmas felt different. It's because you weren't there. We were awful. I'm sorry." Ethan, "That empty chair is still at the table. It should never have been empty. You deserve better from us." I didn't respond yet, but I saved the messages, these acknowledgments that I'd been waiting 5 years to hear. Daniel and I stayed in Florida through New Year's Eve. When midnight struck, I was swimming in the ocean under stars, not cleaning up champagne glasses and party platters. For the first time since Dad died, I was entering a new year on my own terms. On January 2nd, I finally called Mom. Rachel, she gasped. Thank God. We've been so worried. I'm fine, I said calmly. Better than fine. Actually, I'm ready to talk, but things are going to be different. Anything, she said quickly. We'll do anything. Family gatherings will be potluck style. Everyone contributes equally to cooking and cleanup. If you want me there, I'm a guest, not staff. My time is valuable, and my presence is a choice. Can you accept that? There was a long pause. Then, we thought we were being efficient, letting you handle things because you're so good at it. We didn't realize we were erasing you. I know, I said. That's why I had to teach you otherwise. It took months to rebuild those relationships, but on new terms. Terms where my professional success was celebrated, not minimized, where Daniel was welcomed as my partner, not an extra pair of hands for dishes, where my contributions were requested, not assumed, and always accompanied by please and thank you. The next Christmas, I attended as a guest. I brought one dish, my famous sweet potatoes, and when dinner was over, everyone cleaned together. It took them longer than it would have taken me alone. But that wasn't the point. The point was that I sat with Daniel, sipping wine and watching my family finally work as a team, seeing me for the first time as an equal member, not an unpaid servant. Sometimes you have to remove yourself from the picture entirely for people to notice the space you filled, and sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is the freedom to choose whether or not to fill that space again. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? How did you handle it? Your experiences matter, and I'd love to hear them.